Greg, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Tanya. This is great.
Oh, yeah, it's so wonderful to see you again. Greg, what I love about the work that you do is that when it comes to kids and nutrition, my experience of it has been that when we try to connect with kiddos, when it comes to nutrition and healthy eating, that very often it's a handout with some cute little characters on it if we're trying to talk to the child. And that's as far as it goes. And so when we connected earlier on this year and I was introduced to the Superhero Academy, I was blown away at how different your work is.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I really feel like kids are a lot smarter than we think.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that with my niece, who is a part of the program, and she helped me do the videos and she teaches the kid on videos. So I think, sometimes we underestimate like what they're actually absorbing. So like my style is to be not as like kind of cutesy and kiddie, but more aspirational for these little kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I love it. So actually just talking to them as if because their potential is there and not because we're looking down and going, oh, they're tiny human beings who don't quite get this.
Yeah, and it's funny, like using my niece for an example, like she would tell me, like, Uncle Greg, like, she's like, I like that you talk to kids like for real and you don't talk to us like we're little kids, even though we are little kids. I think a lot of the programs out there and how they're teaching kids sometimes comes across a little too kiddie for a lot of kids. And speaking to a lot of parents, they always tell me like my kids kind of mature for their age. So it's like they really grasp what it is that we're giving them and they look at it a lot differently because, it's not just some other kiddie thing that they see. They're taking it serious because we take them serious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, the Superhero Academy, tell me how it began. How did this start?
I'll give you the quick story version of it. So I started out as a personal trainer years ago, and working with a lot of clients one on one. I eventually ended up going and getting my master's in holistic nutrition. I was an online school, which I eventually ended up opening my own gym. And I remember in particular one client. I'm actually really good friends with her to this day. She came into my gym. She was like in her 50s, very successful career, but she wasn't successful in her health. She was, struggling with her health, overweight. The doctor told her that she was going to have to be on an oxygen tank, most likely for the rest of her life. She could hardly walk up a flight of stairs without getting out of breath. And it was a long road in the beginning. Every day, I just kept telling her, like, just give me another day. Just give me another day. And next thing you know, we started making a lot of progress. And while I was working with her, we started talking about her past. And what stood out to me was when I asked her about her childhood, she said, I grew up in just like any other kid. My parents fed me 3 square meals a day. We always sat down at the dinner table. They always cooked, real food. But she would sneak candy and like treats and all this sugary processed food. She would sneak it into her bedroom. And a lot of the time she would eat it without her parents even knowing. She ended up developing this self identity of being the fat kid as a young kid. And she said, Greg, as an adult, every time I looked in the mirror, I saw that young girl as being the fat kid. And she always struggled with kind of shifting that identity. So that was one of the first impactful things that made me think about kids and, how we're developing them today and not developing a strong nutritional foundation in our education system. Fast forward, I would run very large weight loss challenges in my gym. It was one of the most successful weight loss challenges in North Jersey at the time. This was when they first started getting popular, I guess about 15 years ago. And I would have over 100 people join my weight loss challenge, and I would meet with every person one-on-one before they started the challenge. And I would say 85% of the people that joined my weight loss challenge, I could tie some form of thing that they were struggling with back to their childhood that was affecting their health today, whether it was an insecurity, whether it was just poor eating habits, some type of, identity issue, whatever it was. All of these things started as a child. So that's when I said, we need to build a different foundation for kids, so that they don't become adults and have to go seek out a professional to get their health and their habits in check, because the traditional education system is failing our kids in that category. So I'm on a mission to change that.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And I always say that to parents when they're debating whether to bring their child in for therapy or not. I say to them, bring them in now. Even if you're not sure, the brain is so malleable when they're young that if I can see a child when they're 5, it's probably better than when they're 15. If I can see them at 15, it's probably better than when they're 25, and et cetera, et cetera. I believe deeply that the earlier that we can help our kiddos, the better. It just sets this foundation for them.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting with kids as young as 5 years old in our program, and yeah, maybe they don't grasp every single concept in the beginning, but we're at least planting empowering seeds. And when you plant those empowering seeds, it grows over time, but it has to start somewhere. I have one mother in particular I could think of. Her son had a very extreme eating issue. He was very addicted to sugar, to the point where he would literally ask to go to the bathroom, sneak out of class, go to the cafeteria and steal ketchup packets and just literally eat the ketchup packets because he just needed to get that sugar in him. It was getting to the point where it was like controlling their life just about. She joined the program, and to this day, she says her son still says to her, when we go food shopping, we have to look at the food labels and see what's on there. I can't eat too much sugar, even though I love sugar. So it's about changing his mindset about what he's doing. And she always struggled with figuring out, how do I get him to change without pushing him too much? And even though this is an extreme case and it might not be the situation for all of your listeners, it's just one example of how, changing a kid's mindset around food and teaching them the why behind it is probably the most powerful thing, because it's going to affect them for the rest of their life.
Absolutely. Greg, you mentioned a couple of times there the word mindsets. Let's talk about mindsets and nutrition.
Yeah, it's so connected. I mean, and I always believe that, even when I worked with adults, I had a big portion of my fitness and nutrition program was wrapped around personal development and mindset, because you can't have one without the other. They both affect each other. So there's numerous studies that are known that nutrition has a direct effect on cognitive behavior, learning disabilities, behavior, psychology on children. And there's been long-term studies. Actually, there was a study done in the late 70s into the 80s where they took 1 million kids across 500 schools, and just for lunch, they removed any processed and sugary foods. And they noticed a 15 to 25% increase in their cognitive learning ability. Their test scores increased, everything increased. Now, why haven't we like implemented that across schools? I don't understand and I don't know. It probably comes down to economics, because let's face it, like sometimes in a lower economic area, it's hard to eat healthy because, it could cost more money sometimes, so there's that factor. But, it's there.
So quick for, and I mean that those stats are just incredible. And you're right. Why is everything so backward? Why is our healthy food more expensive? It doesn't make any sense. I want to just rewind a little bit here. For our parents listening in, when we say mindset, what exactly are we referring to?
So, um, it's pretty broad, and it could mean a number of things. It could mean anything from mindset being your self image, how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself. Um, on the surface, it could be anything from learning abilities, behavior. There's a lot of different things that encompasses mindset. But when we're talking about kids with nutrition and mindset, it really does have to do with, you know, their brain and the brain development, um, being able to focus their learning abilities, cognitive abilities. It has a direct impact on that. And we do a lot of like personal development with kids too, and really just empowering them because, they're growing up in an age right now that with social media and everything that's going on in the world, you know, there's plenty of things that can disempower them in this world. And it's up to us as adults to give them as much empowering resources as possible during this time because their brains are like sponges right now. They're taking it all in, and us as adults, we're their mirrors basically. They're watching us. And, we have to ask ourselves, are we doing the best job that we can possibly do? And I would say, I think we can do a much better job. And that's why one of my missions is to, create these programs that truly do empower kids and their families as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Greg, what I love about that is, even in psychology, which is my field, counseling particularly, for a long time, it's like health became siloed. So you have anxiety, come in and see me, and we will look at your symptom, and then we'll give you some strategies to figure out that symptom. But what happens? For the first 3 months, I feel like a great therapist because their symptom is gone, and I go, wow, I'm really good at this. But then it reemerges again because I haven't actually looked at the whole child and what's going on underneath. And that's exactly what you're saying to me today about nutrition. That, yeah, we can say to a kid, okay, don't eat candy, or these are healthy foods. But if we don't look at the whole child and we don't actually foster self-esteem, competency, self-compassion, those strategies or skills that we give them probably aren't going to stick.
Yeah, exactly. And, one of the things that we try to do too is we try to tap into their aspirational minds because kids are very, they have a great imagination right now, right? So the whole superhero theme is all about creating the superhero version of themselves and being the heroes of their own story. So as we're tapping into their aspirational minds, we're telling them, okay, like a part of that is first taking care of your body. This is the vehicle that's going to take you for the rest of your life. So just like if someone has a car, you have to put fuel in the car, you have to give it oil changes, tune-ups, you have to take care of the body, right? So why would you take better care of your car than your own physical body that is going to be carrying you for many, many years ahead of time? So we want to make sure that we're putting the correct fuel in the body so that we could go on and do great things and, be the best version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's so beautiful. Great for our moms and dads and teachers and grandparents listening in today. I think the message that we've given them so far is look after the vehicle that's going to take you a far way and the whole vehicle, all the different parts of it. Where do people even begin to start? What's the message? What are some tools that we can give them?
Well, number one, I think when it comes to families and parents, you got to walk the walk. So, if you want to see change in your kids, you have to change as well. So that means you're showing more than telling, because kids are watching their parents more than listening to their parents. So that's number one. Number two is, again, kids like to ask, the number one question kids like to ask is why, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're in the car, you're driving, you're in the back seat. Why are we going here? What are we doing here? Why are we doing that? Why are we, So same thing, like if you want your children to eat healthier, you got to give them the why, and it's not just to tell them like, it's good for you or, it's going to make you smarter. You're like, and that's what we do is we teach them the why behind it, like what does it actually do in your body? What does this food contain? What are vitamins and minerals? What do those vitamins and minerals do for your body? That's number two. And then number three, I would say, is start to slowly make transitions with your child. So if you want to turn your kid from a picky eater to a healthy eater, you can't do it overnight, right? So I would say whatever the foods they like, look at the texture of the food first. What kind of foods do they like and what's the texture of it? Do they like more like drinkable things? Do they like soft food? Do they like crunchy food? And from there, start making substitutions. So if it's something crunchy like they like to eat chips a lot. There's a ton of alternatives of healthier versions of it that you can find and start to make that transition, and it starts in the house. You have to take whatever you have in the house and transition it into a healthier version. Imagine if tomorrow we walked into the supermarket and like all the sugary processed foods, they just disappeared, right? And all you had left was fruits, vegetables, and like healthier, meat options, whatever it was. But you didn't have like all of those snacks and sugary processed foods, right? What would happen? You would have a cranky kid for a little while, but they would adjust, right? We all adjust. Humans know how to adjust. So your kids will adjust too. It's just you got to take control of the situation now.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that perhaps is lacking in many households is parents knowing how do I actually take control? What do I do here? And what I'm hearing you say is look for those alternatives and then lead your child.
Yeah, one of the things we teach kids actually is how to read food labels. So that when they do go food shopping with their parents or their caretakers, they're proactive in the process, so getting your kid proactive, even in the kitchen when you're cooking, have them chop up, well, maybe not chop up the vegetables if they're too young, but have them active in the kitchen helping you. So they're watching the cooking process,
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I love that. So let's do this. So a tip for when you're shopping with your child. What is a tip? So look at those food labels. Are there any other tips for when you're shopping with your child when it comes to nutrition?
Like when you're looking at the food labels, you mean?
Yeah, no. Like you've gone to the grocery store. What is something that parents can do today at the grocery store with their kids?
Stay on the outside. Okay. So, focus on the areas where you're going to see a lot of the fresh fruits and vegetables. Take them through there. Kids are very visual. They like colors, so let them pick out what, hey, if we're going to buy 2 fruits or 3 fruits, which are your favorites? Which ones would you want the most? Let them pick them out. Same thing with the vegetables. Change up the vegetables every week. You could, one week do, some type of kale and pepper, and then change it up the following week, and just test out, like, where's that sweet spot with your kids. And then the other thing you could do is, change the texture of the food. So, you could chop it, mince it, grill it, bake it. Kids are very sensitive when it comes to texture. So that's a big one. One of the biggest hits in our program is our superhero smoothies. They're very easy to ingest because it's a smoothie, and kids like that texture. They love milkshakes and smoothies. But of course, we use fresh fruits and vegetables. We use a little bit of either grass whey protein powder or a plant-based protein powder, depending on the family's, way of life. And we have 8 superhero smoothies with different superhero names, and the kids love them. So it's making food fun again.
I love it. So I love those tips for the shopping center. Get them involved. Get their sensory needs going to really look at the food, choose the food. When you get home and you're preparing the food, talk to them about what's in the food. Look at those labels together. When you sit, get them involved with the process of cooking. So it's not just something that lands on a table and they go, "Ew, yuck." But get them involved in the process so there's more ownership. When they sit at the table, any advice for parents at the table?
Sitting at the table. I would say definitely make sure no screens, no tablets, turn the TV off, go old school. I grew up, I was born in the late 70s, so I grew up in the 80s, and, we were old school. Like, we sat down at the table and we actually had to talk to each other, and my dad would ask us how we're doing, and, that type of stuff. So, even if it's short, even if it's a 10-minute dinner, that's great. Again, making like little steps and making it routine. Kids need routine as well.
Mm-hmm. I love it, Greg. Actually, we had a nutritionist on our podcast recently, and her message was the same. When you sit down at the table, make it about connection. So instead of focusing on you need to eat that food, so it becomes a power struggle, bring back connection to the table, and beautiful things happen from that connection.
Yeah. And I would say, you could even incentivize your kids, say, listen, if we sit down at the dinner table, Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday, and you eat these nice healthy dinners, and we all eat these healthy dinners together, Friday night we're going for some ice cream. Mm-hmm. So another thing we teach is for kids, it's not all about eating healthy 100% of the time. It doesn't mean you can't have your favorite treats. I said, but it's like playing a sport, right? If you want to get good at a sport, you have to practice. But you can't practice 5 days a week, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, right? Because what happens? You get burnt out. You won't even want to play the sport anymore. I said, eating healthy is the same way. You want to practice until you earn yourself to take a break and have a treat. It's the same
moderation.
thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Would that be the same as a cheat day for adults?
Yes. I treat the adults just like the kids.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I love it. Perfect. And then
it's the same thing. I mean, I've transitioned to working with adults to working with kids. I treat them almost the same.
Mm-hmm. What a strange concept.
Yeah. They're just smaller versions of it.
Absolutely. So, Greg, so we've gone. 1 sec. Sorry.
The human body, when you give it a chance, it does amazing things, right? Your body can handle, having those sugary treats once in a while, the things that you want, without totally affecting it. As long as you're giving it what it needs on a consistent basis, So I think of it as like a bucket, right? And the bucket has some holes in it, and you're pouring some liquid in the top of the bucket. The liquid that you're pouring into the bucket is nutrients. The holes is the sugar and the processed foods. So it's leaking the nutrients out of your body. But as long as you're pouring enough nutrients into the bucket and you don't have as many leaky holes, you're always going to have a full bucket of nutrients in your body, right? But if you got too many leaks in the bucket and you're not getting enough nutrients in the top, right? What's going to happen? That bucket's going to be very low.
Absolutely. Oh, what a beautiful analogy.
Yeah.
Greg, I've got one last question here. When it comes to kids moving their bodies, and we know a lot of our children are struggling with that these days, especially as tech takes over more and more. I'm also a 70s baby, by the way, so also old school. But what is your advice for parents? Where do they even start if they have a child who struggles with movement?
Do it together. Do it together. I mean, kids love doing things with their parents, right? So make it fun. That's another thing that we've been able to incorporate too, is we created these little mini superhero workouts. They're 5 minutes long. They're all body weight exercises, but we're playing like really fun, upbeat music. And it's basically me in front of like a green screen, but there's two of me. And the parent has to do like one, like the parent has to look at me as group A, and the kid has to look at me in window B. Mm-hmm. And they're doing the exercises together. And then once it's complete, they get a break and they have to switch. So just doing like things like that, where, you know, you're incorporating it together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so fun. Almost like body doubling. It's like, you know, let's do it. You don't have to do this by yourself. So it's not get outside and move your body. It's like, let's do this together. Let's connect again.
Yeah. And it could be anything, you know. You could put on a fun like yoga video and get your kid doing yoga with you in the living room, you know. Something like that would be great. Just anything. It's really quality time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Greg, before we finish off today, any final advice for parents out there?
Final advice. And, you know, I know your audience, you know, probably mental health and child psychology is obviously on the forefront right now. You know, I've noticed that there's, I think like anxiety in kids has risen. Obviously, the world we're living in right now is very fast paced, high stress and pressure, social media. You know, parents have a lot on their plates, you know, trying to manage all this to make sure that their kids are being raised in a world that they can thrive in. So I think the number one thing is, you know, we can't rely on our school systems. I think that's obvious. I think, you know, parents need to find outside sources. You know, they're obviously finding the Institute of Child Psychology as a resource, whatever it is. But I think kids need daily input of positivity and empowerment, because they're getting plenty of daily input of negativity or bullying or poor eating habits. So it's all about what's happening on a daily basis. You know, what are we giving our kids that empowers them on a daily basis? Whether it's even your conversations with your kids, you know, speaking positive in front of them, you know, just being like, you have to be the beacon for them. You know, you're their tower in a foggy realm right now, you know, so you have to beam that light for them and show them what direction that they're going in, you know. And it's not about like what they're going to be when they grow up. It's more about who are they going to become, because that's what's going to dictate whether they're successful or not, is who they become, not what they're going to be. So we focus on, let's build strong, empowered, healthy kids, and then they'll be able to figure out from there.
Oh, I love that. Be the beacon while they're in the fog, so that they become strong, healthy, empowered kids. Powerful stuff.
That's all we can do. We, you know, so many things are out of our control, but what we do control is our daily input and actions.
Greg, for people that want to find out more about you, about the Superhero Academy, where can they go?
I would say the easiest place to go would be our main website, healthykidsofamerica.com, spelled out healthykidsofamerica.com. And then our flagship program is Superhero Nutrition. So you could just go to healthykidsofamerica.com/superhero-nutrition. And then, if you have questions and you just want to like reach out to me, you could always email me at greg@healthykidsofamerica.com. And I answer all my emails. I don't have a executive assistant or anything. It's just me.
Beautiful. And I can attest, Greg answers all of his emails.
And text messages.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, this was great. I really love what you guys are doing. It's so important. And you guys are a huge movement that needs to be heard. So I really appreciate you, Tanya.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.